So is it true? Did we make it to season 2?
Yes, we did.
Now here's what I don't know. I don't know if these will actually air. Like, we might get canceled after season 1, but
Hopefully not.
I'd like to welcome you back to the Contingent on You Listening podcast. My name is StevePloetz, here with the co-host Isaiah Hernandez.
Welcome, everyone.
Contingent on You Listening, a podcast that is sponsored by Century 21 Affiliated, doing all things real estate, talking to agents, talking to consumers, buyers and sellers, figuring out what's happening in this market. What are things that we can do better? What does the landscape look like? Because my goodness, since we started this podcast, it feels like the landscape is changing all the time. Speaking of landscape, Ian,
sort of.
take it away, Isaiah. You were telling me off air that you have. What did you got? You finally got a listing?
I got some good news. Not yet, but here's where it leads into. Here's what the story is. So, met her at open house. I knew they were homeowners because they talked about their previous property. Followed up with them 3 times. Finally, on the 3rd time, she said, "So sorry, this must have went to my spam." And then she answered all my questions about what I asked her for the property she's looking at. But the 4th question I asked her was, "Hey, I know you own your Scripps Ranch home. Do you need I can run a CMA on it to give you an early estimate about the property."
So let me interrupt and let me ask you a question here super quick. So they come into the open house. You got only email?
I only got email, yep.
Okay, you're forgiven. So then basically what you do is you only email her.
I've only emailed, yeah. I go with as I'm learning this, I'm going with what's comfortable with them. I say, "Hey, what's the best point of contact for you?" They say, "Email's best point of contact." Then I'm like, "Okay, great."
Yeah, I like that.
And I trust that
and I do think you can always follow up with a phone call or with
sure.
a text that says, "Hey, just want to make sure you got my email."
Yes.
I've had other people where it's going to spam.
Yes.
Okay. Well, good.
So continuing on.
So wrap this story up.
So I'm going to wrap it up. So continuing on, she emails saying, "Yes, here's the address." So she gives me address to her property, and then she says, "I'm looking to sell, and I've ran into a few realtors. She's like, but I wanted to go with someone local to Scripps Ranch." Now, obviously, I'm not the Scripps Ranch expert, but I know agents who are, and one of those agents is in our San Diego office, Todd Romano. So it was about utilizing the resources of the agent here.
Partnering.
And I'm like, this is my first listing. Like, if this would be my first actual listing of a residential home. So I'm like, okay, I need to use those resources, and then Todd would be a good learning point for that because I know his resume.
Well, and I definitely think there's something to be said for partnering with another agent, especially as a new agent. I mean, obviously, the big objection I feel like you're going to get is, how many homes have you sold?
Yep.
Do you know what you're doing? Like, that's the big question.
For sure.
To be able to say, "Hey, look, I have a partner. I'm working with an associate." Segue.
Our guest is Sam Bell, president of brokerage of Century 21 Affiliated. And let me add this in for all our listeners. Pickleball fanatic. Is that obvious?
Love pickleball.
Okay, perfect.
Are you any good?
I don't. If you ask my sons, the answer is no. You suck, Dad.
How old are they?
19 and
Oh, okay.
18.
Okay. All right. So it's not like they're like 6 and 8 and dominating.
No,
you.
and they're good, but Dad still has to win.
Fastest growing sport in
America.
It's insane.
I know of. So is there money in it? Like a professional?
There's money. In fact, where I live in Utah, we have 4 of the top 10 world players, and they all make a full, very lucrative living off of pickleball.
Wow. Advertisements and winning in
endorsements, tournament winnings, all that stuff.
They do go on ESPN occasionally too. So
on the Ocho?
Yeah,
Ocho. Yeah, Ocho. It's not dodgeball. It's pickleball.
That's funny. So let's start off, Sam. So we know you're president of brokerage at Century 21 Affiliated, and I think most of what's on our mind right now with Steve and I is, so now that you've become president of brokerage, what does that mean for the brokerage, obviously, and what is your day-to-day? Just to give us a little background.
What do you do, Sam?
Seems like there's a lot of presidents around this place. What are they? Any of them?
Everybody. I mean, we got president of videography, president of
the sound president.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's a great question. So what does that mean? Technically, what that means is I'm like the chief janitor. I'm in charge of sweeping out all obstacles for anybody that works at Affiliated so that they can do their job better in serving the agents so that the agents can be successful and go where they want to go. So I really look at my job as being the person that's tasked with eliminating obstacles.
The buck stops with you, so to speak.
The buck stops with me, so to speak.
Yeah. That you have to do not only the business development kind of stuff, the ideas of like, hey, where is this? where are we going? What are we doing? And how can we simplify the process for agents? Which is interesting because Affiliated in the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, by the time this airs, will have encompassed the whole world of real estate and bought up everything, it feels like.
The strategy is world domination.
Yes.
I'm glad you picked up on that.
Pinky is and the brain over
Pinky
here.
is the brain.
So there's a couple of questions that I have. Number one is, are you able to share the vision, your vision, as to what does it look like at the end of 2023? What does it look like in the years moving forward? How do you see it?
No, it's great questions. Great questions. Simply put, our objective is help more agents sell more houses and make more money. Pretty straightforward. As I look at the business of brokerage, right, which is different than the business of selling houses. Right. I'm in the business of brokerage, and I'm thinking about what does that mean? And what that means is, how do we serve agents? We are in a service industry as a brokerage, and our client is not the buyer, it's not the seller, it's the agent.
Right.
And so what can we do as a brokerage to provide a higher level of service, to provide more value to agents so we can attract more customers, more clients, being the agent to the brokerage? So what does it look like going through 2023? We are really, really focused on helping every agent across the global domination that we're after do at least 2 more transactions than they did last year.
Oh, I like it. I like it when it's specific. It makes it's less ambiguous. I like it when it's measurable. And yeah, two more transactions for me. 2 more transactions. That would be 2 transactions.
That'd be
for
2.
Isaac.
That'd be 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
2
Zero-
more
zero
transactions
last year,
for me.
and I appreciate that, Sam. Thank you.
I mean, in terms of money in my pocket, that might be $20,000.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I think a vision like that I can see, because here's my opinion. You haven't come on here for my opinion, but what we've learned is I'm an expert in my own opinion, is I feel like oftentimes there's a disconnect between agents and brokerages.
Yes.
Which seems silly because agents, I mean, in some way, certainly everybody that's in this room, you're their boss. But in some ways, you're my boss.
Oh, I accept.
And I would say that for most agents, there's almost a feeling of like, why do I care?
Yeah.
With the brokerage. So I guess my question to you is, as a producing agent, why should I care?
Why?
Yeah. What's certainly the 2 transactions I really like, because that is something that for me that I can think about. But what is? I'm not being super articulate. You didn't come on this podcast for articulate questions.
And another thing, Steve likes to go a little bit long with his
Absolutely,
questions too.
Steve
So
goes.
remember that.
Steve goes long.
It's a narrative.
Yeah, just why does it matter to me?
Why does it matter to you? It's a great question. It's a fantastic question. I realize 2 more transactions than last year is very agent specific. But what it does for us as a brokerage, what it does for us as a brokerage, it helps focus our entire team around impacting an individual agent's production. Remember, objective, more houses, more money, right? That's what we're after. And if I can get the entire leadership of this brokerage, the entire staff, the entire central services to focus around how we're going to help each agent accomplish 2 more transactions, I think as a whole company, we're going to be able to provide better support. It focuses everybody on how do we provide a higher level of support to an agent in accomplishing more houses and more commission.
I love it. You know, as a small team, we always focus on, hey, we need to provide high levels of service to our clients.
Absolutely.
And what you're talking about is turning that around as a brokerage from the corporate standpoint. We need to provide high levels of service to our agents.
Absolutely.
And that's rad. So
It's rad. I like that.
I mean, welcome to California. So I guess my next question is, we've kind of touched on agents. Talk to me on consumers. As a home buyer, as a home seller, why does affiliated, Century 21 affiliated matter more to me than XYZ?
Sure. Great question. As we're able to provide a higher level of service to our agent, you'll be able to better perform for the consumer. because our objective is remove some of the distractions so that you can wholly focus on the consumer's experience. On top of brokerage, we also have ancillary companies, other companies that provide services through the home buying process. And one of the things we're looking at across those platforms is a unified front for consumer experience. Meaning, if I walk in as a consumer right now and I'm using agent from brokerage A and I'm using title company C and I'm using mortgage company F, those three companies have no incentive to really work together to enhance the consumer experience. And that's one thing we're looking at is how do we get all of those to sync? So if I'm a consumer and I walk into Affiliated's doors and I go, here I am, I'm Sam Consumer, I want to buy a house.
Right.
I don't know where to start, right? The consumer doesn't really know. They're not the expert. The agent's the expert, and that's why they're here. If we can get all of these companies that we work with to sync up and provide a unified experience for that consumer is going to have a great experience. They're going to be a strong member of the agent's SOI, future referrals from that consumer, future business from that consumer. But why? Because if they have an issue with an escrow, we can get the escrow manager to talk to the brokerage manager. We can get the brokerage manager and the escrow manager in touch with the lender, right? And have everybody communicating about how do we help Sam Consumer have the best possible experience so that he returns. So he tells his friends and families to return so that they can do that. So that's the big ancillary picture. But coming back down to how does that help support the agent? If we can remove some of those distractions so that the agent isn't the point of contact, isn't the person in the middle of all of these different pieces of business, we can keep the agent focused on really that personal level of service, which is what the differentiator is, right? Finding more customers, finding more consumers to help and really help these people move through a very smooth experience in accomplishing
the idea being that a large company, a big company that is systematized, and I like the idea of like set up as a team. I walk in and everybody's talking, everybody knows everybody's role. Hey, and as an agent, I can stay in my lane, and my lane is purely service. I don't need to worry about TikTok videos, and that's a bad example, but just I don't need to worry about the frivolous stuff because somebody else is handling that.
Absolutely.
Let me help you, Mr. Consumer, with how I can help.
Do you see any potential struggles with this, with the California market, transitioning that from Affiliated to now California with the partnership with the Ward? Is there any how do you see that working?
What are the hurdles?
What are the hurdles
coming to this
Don't
market?
make it all rainbows and butterflies.
What are the hurdles? Yeah.
What are the hurdles? It's really getting all those pieces to talk together.
Yes.
Right. In California right now, we have, the brokerage, we have Escrow Network Group. They're talking okay, is my understanding. And then that's part of my first bits of initiative is really discovering what those hurdles are so that we can knock them down. But right now we have those two pieces. We need to get the mortgage piece more incorporated and make sure that's talking. And then we need to really sit down with agents and say, all right, what are the hurdles that you see? Like, how can we remove things from you? How can we get all of these things to work together
Sam, here
better?
we are to talk.
I can't wait.
Well, and I do think, this morning I called my escrow officer, Tegan, who's with Escrow Network, Inc., on her cell phone.
Yeah.
And with my team, we do a little team meeting on Wednesdays. It'll be interesting to see as Affiliated continues to grow, which from my standpoint, I feel like I love the idea of 2 more transactions. I also feel like if we control the inventory, if it's an affiliated agent that has the listing, it's more likely that my client is going to have an in to be able to get their offer accepted. If Isaiah has a listing and I write an offer, I feel pretty confident. There's certain barriers to entry. There's certain things that he can and can't do, but I do feel confident that because of our relationship, it'll make it easier. So I like that standpoint. It'll be very interesting as you guys scale it.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm calling Tegan on her cell phone. If she's working with 600 agents, might be hard, and I think that growth will come a little growing pain, a little
Absolutely, but that is something that's where that's another part of my job. I need to be seeing down the road far enough to say, where do we need to fix? What are the pressure points that we need to fix so that it scales, it feels fluid, you're getting the level of service that you want.
Yeah.
That, the other agents are getting the other 600 people trying to call team.
And unfortunately, you work with a demographic that is egotistical as heck in terms of realtors. Legitimately, I feel like catering to realtors has got to be so difficult.
It's tough.
I hate realtors. I just feel like as a demographic, it's scary. It's hard, and there is the need that everything is perfect. We can't see it off camera here, but all these Studio A people are nodding and smiling and looking away from me because they don't want to know what it's like. Oh, they're giving me the zip it signal.
Enough.
It's just so interesting because I think there's a lot of value to the individual agent in the growth, and I also think that you guys are going to have your hands full in scaling, in making the moves, even in telling agents like, "Hey, this is going to be better for you. Mm-hmm. Here's my commitment: 2 more deals for you. That's money in your pocket. That's mortgage payments. That's vacations. That's what we're doing."
Right.
You're still going to get pushback.
Absolutely.
And luckily, Isaiah had this long list of questions that talked about like your resume and all this different stuff. The nice thing is you bring in a robust background.
For sure.
This ain't your first rodeo here, Sam.
Yeah. No.
So I would imagine it's your first multi-state rodeo.
No, it's
Look
not
at
my
that.
first multi-state rodeo. I've been at the company I was at, Century 21 Everest, had operations in Utah and in California.
In LA, right?
LA and Ventura area.
Nice. So you've done this California Mountain Time, Pacific Time.
You've got experience. Yeah, obviously.
We've done this.
Yeah.
You know what? And I think one of the big benefits of affiliated, because you bring up a good point with scaling. One of the big benefits is there's a very large team. In fact, over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about the level of support and the number of staff and the staff to agent ratio that we have is very high, one of the highest in the industry.
That's rad.
Which is different than some of these other brokerages where you might have one broker in charge of thousands of agents doing business. How do you get a level of service that's going to be satisfactory without the personnel to back that? Not possible. And that's one thing we've got. And we've got, we are multi-state, but we have staff and employees in all the states willing to help agents from any state. And so we do have a really high staff to agent ratio across the board.
And I got a question for you for this plan and the scaling this. Is this, how much of this effort goes to experienced agents like Steve, and then also with the new agents as well, nurturing
Whiff them,
new
he's
agents?
saying. Whiff them. What's in it for me?
I'm just curious.
I'm just
curious.
curious.
As we break in, California's got a lot of
curious
agents.
Here, Sam. What are you
Sometimes
doing for
you get
me?
some guys off the street, and so maybe they want to know, like, hey, as a new agent too. I was just curious where this plan might, as percentage-wise, help.
Isaiah, careful. That's your boss. Okay?
Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry. Sam, I'm so sorry. But
Will I help you, Isaiah?
Will you
Yes,
help me?
I will help you.
Thank you.
It's a great question. And I think a lot of emphasis gets placed on the top producers. In fact, you hear a lot of them on podcasts like this. You see them on social media. There's a lot of recognition that surrounds high producing agents with awards and things like that. And we love those, but we love all the agents equally. This idea of 2 per agent, might not impact a top producer very much, but it's going to highly impact the low-level producers, the non-producers, the mid-level producers. They're going to see major life improvement through that extra $20,000, where a top producer might just say, hey, now I can buy those alligator shoes I've had my eyes on for a long time.
Totally. Nice.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, this has been really good, and I think there's so much that I take away in terms of change and growth really being a positive thing. I guess my last question to you before we wrap up here would be, is there anything specific that you would like to say to someone that is not with Affiliated, that if you were looking to at another company, another agent that was outside, what might be something that they haven't thought about, or what might be a reason that they should take a look?
Well, that's a great question. So now I have to recruit people. I love recruiting. My standard pitch is, if you hate money, don't come here, right? That's my standard pitch is, if you hate money, don't come here. Well, why do I say that? We've got exceptional training. I've just sat through a session of Mission Possible. What I love about that type of training is it's tactical advice to help agents actually do more business. It's not just the fluffy rah-rah stuff, right? We've got training programs to help you. We've got managers who are committed to coaching, right? And they feel pressure from me. We put a ton of pressure on these managers to really, truly help each and every agent that's here with us at Affiliated. And they feel that, and they know it's serious, right? And so, if you want to go somewhere where it's going to be cheap and you can just do whatever, which means do nothing, then go somewhere else. That's great. I'm glad that works for you. Doing nothing, if that's your thing, go somewhere else. If you want to do something, if you want to take your real estate to a new level, then you need to join us at Affiliated, because we have the people who've been there, done that, and can show you how to do it.
Yeah. If you want to perfect your craft, if you want to get skilled, if you want to be able to charge a real commission, especially in a market that has seen some adjustments. We didn't really dive into it, but you guys made this move. You made the move during an interesting time, during a time with some help me with the vocab here.
The vocab is we made the move right before the market fell off a cliff.
Exactly.
We're a lemming.
And I think that's from the agent standpoint, I feel like that's the time to get good at your skills. Now's not the time to do 1% listings and work out of your house and have absolutely zero accountability and not work on your skills. Now's the time to double down on getting good at what you do.
Absolutely. And here's the secret to real estate. If you are good at your sales skills, I mean really good at your sales skills, it does not matter what the market does. I mean, we talk about the market falling off a cliff. That's like saying the glass is half empty when there's only maybe 20%, when it's 20% empty. That makes no sense, right? As you look at what's really happened over the last year and all the fear and all of the doubt that people talk about with respect to the market, 70 to 80% of the homes have sold.
Right.
And what I sit back and look at and scratch my head, why are we talking about that? Let's hone our craft so that you are one of the agents selling the 80% of the homes that's still sold.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, Sam, we really appreciate it. I know you flew all the way in specifically for this podcast,
100%.
and I'm sure you got to catch a flight back. But thank you for being here.
Thank you very
Your
much.
insight
Thank
is
you.
greatly appreciated, and thank
Definitely.
you. You're still here.
Thanks, everyone.
Second season. We'll see how many of these we can do. I hope to see you back here on the Contingent on You Listening.
And hopefully
podcast.
we'll get renewed for season 3.
Possibly.
Let's do it.
See you soon.
Thanks, everyone.